Hey folks, back with ancient cosmography. I was showing how in the Celtic lore it describes a bronze vessel with a fish jumping out of it, and it seemed to be describing part of the nearby Faroe Islands, north of the British Isles. And that this is basically the vessel and this is the fish. But also the vessel is supposed to be filled with water, and there's supposed to be water, I think, coming out of the vessel and being drunk by like the surrounding figures. And so I just wanted to zoom in to show what I think that's describing. I think that, here this is on there. So I think these islands that come off are seen as water coming out of the vessel and sloshing out. And maybe this one. Yeah. So here's a close-up of it. So it kind of does look like it's a spray of water, like sloshing out of this vessel, but it's really just, islands and seamounts and stuff. And so yeah, that's right there. And I forget what this island's called, but something or other. I think they're like the Norse like settled there after they like kicked the Celts out. So it has some Norse name, probably Nordic name. So I've been studying this story also in the Fenian cycle of Celtic mythology about Diarmid O'Duin or whatever, who's this guy who famously fights a boar, and so like I think it relates to Australia, because in the story, Diarmid and the great boar, who's clearly a huge boar, they kill each other. So it's the same as the Lascaux scene, the Lascaux Caves famous scene, where you have the two main figures, the larger one, Australia, and the smaller one being the anthropomorph Papua. And they basically both kill each other. Like they're both considered to be dead usually, I think, or at least in the process of dying. They sometimes call this the recumbent man or the recumbent bird man. And Diarmid is also a bird man. He's clearly anthropomorphic, has opposable thumbs and stuff, but he's also described as a hawk. So, and Australia seemed to be depicted as a boar in its earliest depiction that I know of from Sulawesi, like the 45,000-year-old paintings. And it makes sense for the French in Lascaux in the Ice Age, like they had like bisons around, so that was like a ready concept, whereas in the British Isles and in Sulawesi, Indonesia, they probably didn't have bisons, so they, the boar was like a stand-in as a large, ferocious animal, I guess. So like right after Diarmid kills the boar, or Mako Duin is what he's also called. He kills the boar with, he first, uses his javelin, and it breaks into three, which fits with the fact that that's the, let's see, there's this these islands, which for this just indicate this spear that basically killed the bison. But in the Celtic story, it's more nuanced. It's like he throws the spear, it breaks in three, and then he uses a sword. So I think this part is the spear, and then this part is actually the sword. This, I think, is Australia as a boar in the earliest 45,000-year-old depiction. And, it has this weird shape of his, like, snout, which somewhat matches with the shape of, Cape York Peninsula of Australia, that kind of has this, point on the eastern end there, like that, where it sticks out more, and then it has an indent here on the western end. And this one, I think because it's painted in Sulawesi, it seemingly doesn't include Papua, unless it includes Papua as part of Australia. But it may just be about the interaction between Sulawesi and the largest island of the region, being Australia, as a large boar. Or at least that's my guess, is that this depicts Sulawesi with holding on to this thing, which is actually this. I mean, if so, it's quite stylized, but it's the best I can find, that this would be the head, and that he has these little arms sticking out there, and then his knees are up like that. So yeah, that would be quite stylized, but it's the best fit for that region as far as I can tell. And so anyway, so this thing, the one that looks like a spear especially, actually is broken in three. So it matches perfectly that story. So anyway, Finn McCool got pissed off because he's really doesn't like Diarmid, because his wife was in love with Diarmid, because as it says, like in the Wikipedia about him, women all immediately fall in love with Diarmid when they see his body, when they see his love area. They sometimes call it his love spot. But I'm pretty sure that's referring to his dick, because, that's basically this Papuan Peninsula right here is pretty impressive. It's pretty much of a monster dong, as they say. So yeah, it's funny how they don't exactly say it. They just, like, when you see it, you'll know. And so even this depiction, the way they are situated is pretty similar to the way, these guys are situated, Papua and Australia. And there is also a description of his spears, as in Wikipedia it was saying he actually has two spears. One is yellow, so I think that's the main one that breaks in three. and then one is red. So my guess is that's relates to this and probably also this. And I'm thinking that this is his sword actually, and that this is his scabbard, because it says his spear breaks in three, and then he takes his sword from his scabbard, and then that's what he kills the beast with. So I think this might be another iteration of the sword stabbing into it, and maybe this too. But it also says that before he goes far away to this field, he's in a nearby field, and it even sometimes is referred to as in Sligo, Ireland. So I looked at Sligo, and it does actually look like there's a shape that's a bit like a boar, and then there's a shape that's a bit like Papua. So here's the tripartite spear. So here's his sword. Great. So I'm not sure if I can find again the boar, but it's somewhere on the screen. But this might be the iteration of him in Sligo, that this is like his head and his beak. Bird's Beak Peninsula here would be like this part. This part would be like this part here. This part would be like this part here, his arm or something. And then this part down here would be, I think, his dick and balls, if this is correct. And so that would like correspond to like him having a prominent penis, and this other